Welcome teachers. As promised, this brief video would emphasize on scheduling Zoom meetings. I'm going to first show you again how to do the scheduling using the browser. So once you would have accessed Zoom via the browser, you would come to meetings. Okay, and you have the option here which says schedule a meeting. Okay, and once you are here, the first thing you will want to do is to give your meeting a title. So let's say we give the title The Parts of a Flower, right? That's your title. You can give it a brief description if you so desire. It's not a must. And then you come here for your date. When is that that session is going to be held. So let's say you want to hold a session tomorrow, October, which is the 8th. Okay, so you see October and you select the specific date. Okay, and your time, do you want that schedule to be 1:30, 2:30? So let's say you want it to be 1:30. It's already in PM. Okay, if you had an earlier time, you schedule AM. Next, how long do you want the session to be? Since I signed in using the basic version and not the licensed version, I am limited, as you can see, to 40 minutes. Okay, and I'm going to do the duration. So I know very well if I schedule it for 2 hours, that would not be accommodated since it allows me 40 minutes. So I'll just put 1 hour here. I know it's going to eventually end after 40 minutes. Okay, we have our time zone. You can make adjustments here if you so desire. This feature here is important: recurring meetings. If you so desire to have the same subject every time, it would be better if you enable this to recurring meetings. Okay, so let's say every day at 9 o'clock you have literacy. Then you would click on recurring meeting to ensure that you do not have to be preparing as scheduling a meeting every time after that, because if you're having a session 9 o'clock every day, then there is no need to schedule a meeting every time you have your session at 9. You just use the same information every time. So to do that, as I already clicked on it, recurring meeting, then you're going to be prompted, is it daily? Meaning every day at 9 you have that subject, right? Or is it weekly, where every Fridays, yes, I'm saying it correct. Every Friday you have that specific class? Or is it monthly, where once a month you have that class? Or you can do no fixed time, right? Most of the times, especially at the primary level, we know that you may have, especially now as you're doing the virtual learning, some of you may have the sessions every day at a specific time. So this can come in handy. Okay, so after this, when do you expect this to end? You can do it at the end of when you know the term is likely to end. So we know normally around December the term would end. We do not have the option of December, but we can put it for, let's say, the 26th of November. The recurring meetings would end. Right. Do we want a waiting room to be enabled? I believe in the waiting room because it can help to facilitate classroom management. Okay, yes, we are in a virtual setting, but classroom management is important, right? The same way, if you're not in class, you would want the children to behave a certain way in your absence, and we know sometimes what happens when we're absent, right? So in the virtual classroom now, we want to ensure that in our absence, the children would behave a certain way. If you do not enable the waiting room, what can happen is students can get into the room and engage in all sorts of behavior that may not be so nice. And we know nowadays everything you can record. So somebody else could record the child behave, another child behaving in a certain way, and before you know it, it can be all over social media. So my advice is to enable the waiting room so that you get in first as a teacher and you admit them into the room. That's the safest thing. Another reason for the waiting room is as a security measure, right? You want to ensure that whoever gets into the room is supposed to be there, right? So at least if you know Matthew, John, right? You allow Matthew, John into the room because that's your student. But when you don't enable the waiting room, you can have a situation where students get into the room. Individuals get into the room who are not students, and that can be disastrous, right? So to avoid that, you enable your waiting room, and to do that, you click here. As you see, it's already enabled. If you disable it, it's like this. That means anybody gets into the room and they can do as they please, right? So I'm going to put it back on. Right, so after this, we can decide, okay, our video host, should we put it on or off on entry? The participants likewise. I always advise keep it off, right? Because let's say somebody decided to sign in earlier than the meeting should start, right? The camera, you have it as have the video enabled. The person may not be dressed properly as yet, and you don't want any embarrassing moments, right? So you keep it off both for yourself and for the participants. You can enable mute participants on entry because you want to have some form of control, okay? Some form of control when they get in. Because sometimes the meeting is already started and people enter, yeah, they enter and then they're talking and so on, and the meeting is already in progress. So you don't want to have this issue. Something else I should mention is the passcode. You see, a passcode is already generated here, but I like to advise, let's say we give um, something that the students can remember, right? So we can say agree, that's for agricultural science. Whatever grade you put it 3. So that's easy, and maybe something that they will remember. They will remember money. So you put a money sign, sorry. Right? So I agree 3 money sign. So the students know every time they have the meeting that day, that is the passcode, because remember we already did recurring meeting. So they don't have to always have a different code. So you do this and then you save. Right? So if you notice, our meeting is here. It's already scheduled. And for you now to share that information, you copy invitation, right? You copy the meeting invitation and you send it out to the students, right? So they have the link, they can get through it. They have the link, or they have the meeting ID and the passcode, right? So there you have it, your invitation, and you send it out to them. So that was using the browser to schedule the meeting via Zoom, right? So I'm going to use now the installed Zoom application to schedule a meeting so that you can see it's somewhat similar. So you see here, schedule, you come and schedule, and again, you do the same thing. So you basically repeat what you just did, right? So the parts of a flower, all right, you set your date, and you see now at least we have the minutes. We know it's 40, but we would put 45 minutes. We do our recurring, so we know every day that time, that's when it happens. And we have, we're going to leave generate automatically, and we put our password so it would be easier, or passcode, so the students can get in easily than always having to remember every time this complicated passcode. So we put something easy for them to remember. So I agree 3, and we can put in the end $sign for them. And of course, we enable our waiting room, and we still have the option of video off for you as the host and for the students. Okay, we have our advanced option. What is important here, we can mute the participants upon entry. Again, as I said, sometimes you have a meeting started and then individuals join the meeting and they're loud and so on. So you mute them, you have it as mute upon entry. So once they enter, it's muted automatically. All right, and you have the option to automatically record the meeting on the local on your computer. Okay, so once you start the session, that happens. So we save, and there we have our meeting here, and it's already scheduled, so you copy, right? So you have the information, and then you can send it out, paste it wherever you desire so that it gets out, whether you want to paste it into your email and send it out, or let's say you have WhatsApp, you have it on your system, your laptop, and you want to send it out, right? Or you can just email it so you access it via your phone, or you can just share the meeting ID and the passcode with the students. Let's say they don't, but the only thing with that, they will not have the Zoom link to be able, those who would want to enter by just clicking the link, right? So that's basically how you go about scheduling the meeting. All right, so you can go back on home, right? Home, right? And you can go on, you don't have any meetings today, so you want to see your meetings, you see here, and you go parts of the floor and you start your meeting just like that. Or the one that we did in the browser, it's here, meetings, and you would see start. So meetings, start, and there we have it. You start your meeting. Okay, so I can choose to do it here, and our meeting is started. And you know, as usual, you have to connect with the computer audio, and our meeting has started. When the students are coming in, you would see you are given the opportunity to allow them to enter the room. It will keep popping up and you allow them to enter. And that's basically it in terms of scheduling your meeting. So for the next recording, I'm going to show you how to enable and disable annotation to avoid the students from having the time of their life writing all over the screen. Okay, so I'll equip you with that video next.